Hi everyone, I know it's been a long time since I've made an ASMR video. I've mostly been making video essays or making reviews with Dan, or you might be here for my mental health vlogs and videos, or my politics or social justice stuff. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that yes, I do ASMR too. I dabble in it anyway because I kind of owe ASMR my life. That sounds very dramatic, but at least in part I do anyway. Because when I was really ill before, I've used ASMR to calm down and it's really helped. So I thought I could occasionally try to give something back to the coronavirus. And I know it's a scary time for a lot of people. Mostly because, especially here in Britain where I'm making this, the information we're getting seems either vague or contradictory, and obviously this virus is still relatively new. So I'm not a scientist and I do not have the answers, but what I can try to do is help you to relax a little and help you with your anxiety and the anxiety that may have been caused by this virus or might have just been worsened by it. And this is for everyone, not necessarily people who've struggled with anxiety before. I think it's quite natural at a time like this for people's anxiety levels to be through the roof, and there's no shame in that. So whoever you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are or anything like that. I just hope that this kind of calms you down a little bit. I don't have the answers, but I can try and help pass on what I have learned as someone with an anxiety disorder and who has struggled with a lot of issues with mental health. So hopefully I can help you, and that's the point, I suppose, of me learning these things. There's no good in keeping it to yourself if you can help other people with it. So this video is to help myself really as much as it is to help you, so it's not an entirely selfless act. Because what I learned in therapy for my BPD was how to reassure myself and to think about any situation as sensibly as possible, so almost to detach from it and to think like a problem solver, or in terms of what I can do, what I have the power to do and what I don't. So things that I can't be punishing myself for. There are some things in life we can change and we can influence, and there are some things that we can't, and that is really hard to come to terms with, but we have to work out for ourselves what we do have the power to change and what we don't. And the things that we don't, it's only going to cause us more pain in the long run if we beat ourselves up about it, because we can only do our best, and sometimes things happen that are beyond anyone's control. I don't think that this virus is any sort of punishment or anything like that. I've seen a lot of people going with the narrative that this virus is a way of punishing the human race or something, but I just want to tell you that I don't believe in any of that, because I think these things just happen sometimes. I don't want anyone to feel upset by that and what people are saying, because I truly don't believe that if there was any, justice in the world, if there was any meaning to this, then it wouldn't be impacting vulnerable people and elderly people. It doesn't work like that. So I feel like that's adding to the fear, and obviously it's just my opinion, but if it helps, I don't think it's anything to do with that, truly. This is not some punishment on us, this is not some reflection of the human race, and nobody deserves it. It's just a virus, and all we can do is try and help the vulnerable people, the most vulnerable in our societies, and be there for each other. So a little bit of background on me. I have had emetophobia for a long time now, and emetophobia is actually a fear of sickness. So it's actually a fear of being sick physically, but the fear also extends to illness in general, so catching an illness. So it's relevant here. And the fear can come from, at least as far as I've researched and discussed in therapy, I've spent a lot of years working on this, because at times it stopped me from eating and leaving the house. But it's the idea of losing control of your body, and that's the essential fear. And there is something inherently quite traumatic about that thought. Some people take that to more of an extreme than others, but for those of us with emetophobia, that's kind of the fear. So often people who have this fear, and it's not just those people, there's lots of people who might be relating to this. Often it's people who find it really hard to relinquish control of their sensations, and there can be a lot of reasons for that. But it means that illness, which is one of those things we can't control, creates a lot of fear and uncertainty, especially with something like this, because instead of a usual bug where we can usually know exactly what to expect, this one still feels very new. So there is a sense of fear in the not knowing, and something that's scary for people who like to have control over a lot of things. So if you've got anxiety, you might think that, if I can only control events, if I can foresee things, then I'll be able to keep control, I'll be alright, I'll hold it together. But that's actually an issue in our own heads, because in the real world you can't foresee these things. You can't foresee illness, you can't plan for it. You just have to accept it as it comes, and so many of us find that really difficult. What I have learned is that I can't try to control things that can't be controlled. All that does is cause pain. And with my anxiety, I have tried to control it and master it, but originally I was doing that in all the wrong ways before I realised that what I needed to do was to come to an acceptance that whatever happened, I would be okay and I would give it my best, and that no amount of panicking beforehand would stop the future from happening. So wasn't it better to enjoy the good moments while I still had them? So that's a control in itself, but it's a healthier control, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure. There's no way that we can predict illness and if we'll get ill or when we'd get ill and what it'd be like. We can't control those things, and I know that's really scary, but that's a fact. We can't control that. So you have to let that go. You have to let that idea go and take that burden away from yourself. That is not something that you should expect of yourself. We're all in the same boat here. Nobody can predict it. You're not failing because you can't be in control and you can't plan for it and plans are changing or anything like that. There's no weakness in it. It's just being human. You can't control everything in life. And in a way, your anxiety is in control of you when you have to be in control of the anxiety, if that makes any sense. You can't prevent bad things from happening. Nobody can prevent them. When it comes to illness, nobody can do that. Nobody has that power. So what I want to focus on is not promising you that everything will be fine, because although it most likely will, for most people it will, there's no value in me telling you that, because nobody can tell us for sure what's going to happen in the future. And that's the same of everything. Don't just be afraid of that in terms of this virus. I suppose that's true in life in general, isn't it? That's how we live life. We just don't think about it very much. What matters is not someone promising you that it's going to be fine or me telling you that. What matters is the way that you feel. And what I need to tell you is that there's no weakness in catching the virus. And if you do catch it, it isn't a loss of control or a failure or anything you did wrong. You have to make peace with the fact that these things happen and that we can't stop them, but we can control our responses. So there are some things that we can do. So there are things we can do to lessen the chances of catching it or to slow the spread. So those are healthy things to think about, because these are active things we can be doing to help not just ourselves but others, and that's a sensible thing to do. So in therapy, we often focused on what we could do, what we had the power to do. So first of all, we know that we need to be washing our hands more. So we need to be washing our hands with soap for 20 seconds, and we need to be doing that often. We need to try not to touch our faces, but don't punish yourself if you can't manage that, because it is strange to get used to. I'm someone who touches my face a lot, I think because I'm quite an anxious person. I'm someone who fidgets and plays with my hair and all that kind of thing. So it's just sort of getting used to it and just trying to adapt and follow the advice that we're given. Now, a lot of plans are going to be cancelled over the next few weeks. I think this morning they announced that there would be no Glastonbury Festival. I was watching the news and they've said that EastEnders isn't being filmed, the BBC is cutting back on its shows, but a lot of things are being cancelled, and I'm actually due to graduate in 2020, and I think that the graduation, or at least the ceremony for the graduation, is going to be postponed, which is disappointing because obviously I've worked really hard for it. I've seen a lot of people who are due to graduate this summer feeling disappointed, and that's totally, valid to feel, because it's frustrating. It is frustrating and disappointing when plans we have are cancelled, and I know that, and that's okay as well. Concerts are being cancelled, parties and shows in the West End, but can we change that? I mean, no, we can't change it. And even though it is frustrating, which is absolutely fine to feel, we can think of those people that it might help. It's okay to feel frustrated and angry and disappointed, and you're not bad for feeling that. Like, you might have been waiting a long time for something. I've seen people who have had tickets to go and see an artist they really like, and now that's not going to go ahead as they thought it would, and it's something they were looking forward to. Allow those feelings to sit and exist. Like, let yourself feel them. It's okay to be disappointed about those things, and it's okay to feel sad about having to stay in and not see your friends as much as you wanted, or go to events you wanted to. But then expand on those thoughts after you've looked at them, and recognise that there will be more opportunities later on, that the waiting won't last forever. We are all experiencing the same things, so it's not that some people are doing things and you aren't. You're not falling behind, I promise you that. It's just a pause. We are all pausing right now. You're not falling behind. It's fine, okay? It's absolutely fine, and you can deal with that. Life will resume in the future, and nobody's going to be getting ahead of you. You're not falling behind. You're not a failure. You're not weak. You're just trying to deal with this as best you can, and we're all in the same boat, so don't worry, because so many people feel like that. And don't feel guilty about being disappointed, because it's natural to feel disappointed. Obviously, we all know that we have to follow these guidelines because we have to protect ourselves and protect other people, and we have to follow what the scientists think is the best thing to do, because that's sensible. But it's fine to feel that way. You don't have to feel bad about that. Like, it's fine to feel upset. That's fine. A lot of people are scared, like really scared, and I want to tell you that being afraid is a valid way to feel. I'm not here to tell you that it's wrong. I know that a lot of people think that this is being overblown. A lot of people think it's being underplayed, and I don't have those answers, but what I can tell you is that the feelings that you have in response to it are your feelings alone, and you are entitled to them. You don't need to feel ashamed of them, no matter who you are. It's okay to feel anxious or concerned or apprehensive. I mean, these are all normal emotions, and they're perfectly reasonable to be feeling. You might not even know how to feel right now. I mean, for me, it seems really overwhelming, doesn't it? Especially now in this age, with all the distrust that we have with the media and social media, all that kind of thing. It can feel like there's a lot of information to digest, and you don't know what to believe, and that's normal, that's okay. That's something that we're experiencing maybe a bit differently to generations before us, all of us that are active on social media now, there's a lot more information, a lot more things that might frighten us. And it's natural that people would feel anxious about this or scared, because we care about each other and we care about our families, and it's completely normal when something like this happens to think of those people. However you are feeling in response to this, it's valid and it's fine. There's no right or wrong way to feel about this. Our emotions are a funny thing because we all respond to events differently, and an emotion itself is not wrong. You can't help the way you feel about something. We can't control this virus, and we can't expect to do that, none of us. But what we can do is we can take control of ourselves, and we can tell ourselves that we will accept the ways we are feeling, however that is, and we won't punish ourselves for it. We have to allow ourselves to simply feel, because without letting yourself feel a certain way, how can you move forward to the next stages of helping yourself? You need to recognize those feelings of anxiety or fear in order to be okay again, because mentally you need to be strong. And I don't say that to shame you or pressure you. I'm quite afraid right now. It feels very uncertain at the moment. We don't really know what's going to happen, and I'm very scared of being ill. So I know how that feels. But we will all be under extra pressure, even if that means, having to be in isolation and just getting restless and being around people that maybe we don't want to be around, or not being able to see the people we really want to see. We have to create a mental strength that will pull us through this. We have to nurture ourselves. It's like building a shield of confidence, not one that will stop the illness, but one which will help us keep on pushing through life when we feel down and emotionally we are low or our lives are disrupted. We have to know that we have the value and worth to be here, and that we can handle discomfort, we can handle disappointment. Mentally, we need to recognise our resilience and understand that this won't be forever. A lot of feelings might rise up, things might get tumultuous. I know how stormy it gets. It can make you want to scream, but it is not forever, and you have the strength to endure. You have the strength to face this. Give up the idea of controlling whether you get it or not, because that will drive you mad. You will torture yourself and it will feel like an obsession, and you don't need that on your shoulders. It's not a weight for you to carry, so let it go. You cannot control that. You can take steps to help prevent it. You can follow guidelines to the best of your ability, but you can't control everyone else. Give up the idea of controlling it. Just let it fly away. You are only in control of yourself. You are still in control of yourself. You can cope. You have the power to cope with whatever happens. You will deal with whatever happens in the best way that you can. I don't want to over or underplay the situation, because as I keep saying, I don't have the answers, but all I can do is remind you that you know you have it in you to stand strong. You've been through so much in life and you are still here. And there are times when you were scared or unsure in your history, but those times feel distant to you now. They've faded into hardly anything. And one day this will fade into nothing too. It will just be a memory or a story, and the good times will come again. The good times will always come again. See yourself looking back on this. Visualize it from a point in a better future. Once we are in control of our fear, we can move on to helping make things better. And this is a way to get back some control in a healthy manner, because we can't control the spread entirely, but we can make sure that we are there for those that need help. We can check in with our friends and neighbours. We can arrange to help with shopping, or even just call to make sure people don't feel alone. And in doing that, we will feel less alone. Isolation seems like wise advice, but it does risk people feeling detached and lonely. And I know it can feel horrible to be out of touch with people. So if we can help people not experience that, then let's try our best. Keep in touch with our loved ones, phone them, use FaceTime, check in with each other. We need to remember that we are all one and we all matter. Everyone matters, every single one of us, every person listening to this. You matter, you have worth, you have value, and you deserve to be here. And in times of illness like this, what we can see is that we are all the same. We are all the same fighting against this virus all over the world. And what we need is a better, kinder world with more support in place for the vulnerable all the time, not just at times like these. It shouldn't take something of this level for governments to realise that any of us could need healthcare or need support at any time in our lives without warning, and we all need equal access to those things. So that's something positive we can think about for when this virus is over, when it gets better, when we're on the other side of it. What can we do to make sure that if a situation like this happens again, that the most vulnerable people in our society are protected? What actions can we take to help? These are positive things to think about. I want you to use the fear and anxiety that you feel and channel it into something else. So I have learned to use my more unsavoury emotions to fuel my actions. For example, when I feel anger about injustice, I don't try to squash the anger or mask it. I just let it exist. And then I take that anger and I put it into something good. So I might speak out or try to make a change. So I use that high building of energy and adrenaline for something that might help. That's how it can be with this anxiety and fear. So we use those feelings to think about those more vulnerable than ourselves. We can use that energy. It can give us the drive to reach out, metaphorically speaking, and to make a difference. And at times like these, we can really help and support each other. I do believe that good can be found in anything, and I hope that doesn't sound ridiculous. I don't mean that something terrible can be transformed by positive thinking. I know that's insulting to even suggest. What I mean is that having been through a lot of therapy and faced some demons, I've realised that even in the darkest of times and memories, you can still cling to your own resilience. Sometimes the one good thing to be found in the situation is yourself. Even if it's just to say to yourself that yes, the world was cruel and things were unfair, but you didn't lose yourself. You're still here right now. And this applies to every single person listening to this. I don't think that everything happens for a reason, and I wish that I could take any of the bad things in your lives away, but I can't do that. It's impossible. All I can do is hold up a mirror and let you see yourself now, that you are still here after everything. And I bet that there are times when you thought you wouldn't see this day, but here you are. You did that, and that's down to you. You get to take the credit for that. That is the good that can be found, that you coped with it. Nobody else did. Nobody else went through those exact challenges and situations. Only you did, and only you really understand that, and only you got through them. And maybe you think you could have got through them better, but you still managed it. And I want you to know how massive that is. Other people may never know how much hurt and pain you've been through, but you don't need them to validate any of it, because you know and you felt it and you're here, and that's a triumph, and you should be so proud. I'm going to leave you now, but I hope you feel calmer or more comforted. You can listen to this whenever you feel stressed out and know that you're not alone. You are entitled to your feelings on this, whatever they may be. All we can try to do is follow the guidelines, help ourselves and help others. We're all going through this together, and that means that you don't have to feel afraid and alone. Remember that you are in control of yourself, but you're not in control of anything outside of that, and that is not a pressure that is on your shoulders. Remember that having control of yourself means accepting your emotions and not denying them, and you need to be strong enough to let those feelings sit and to acknowledge them. You need to be strong enough to know that you cannot control this virus with willpower or with the best of intentions. You can only do what the guidelines suggest. The rest is not within your control, but your kindness to others is within your control. The virus itself is not, and that's fine. you need to accept that we can't control how long this will last, but we can be strong and accept that we simply don't know. Let that expectation of having to know when it will end and what exactly it will entail, let that expectation fly away. You can let that go. It's okay not to know. It's okay. And you are okay. And you will be okay. We just have to be kind to each other, because it is in times of struggle and in times of stress that we will make a choice whether we're going to make it harder for each other or whether we are going to help each other. And there have been times in history in all cultures where we've seen examples of both of these things. And what we want to be is we want to be a generation that is remembered for helping each other when things get tough. That's what we want, isn't it? And that's what we can be. So I love you loads. I hope that you feel a little bit calmer. And even if you don't, then just know that I am thinking of you and that I understand how anxiety-inducing this can be for some people, and that you are valid. You don't need to be embarrassed of that or ashamed of it. We will all handle this differently because we are all different personalities and different people. There's no right or wrong way of reacting to this emotionally. But of course there is a right way to react in terms of the guidelines, and we need to make sure that we are doing all that we can, not just to protect ourselves, but to protect others. So we need to put aside our selfishness and maybe our needs and wants for ourselves and think of the bigger picture. And I know that we can do that, and I know that we have it in us to do that as a collective. And hopefully when we look back on this period of time in the future and it's all sorted out, hopefully we will look back and feel proud of the way that we dealt with it and the way that we responded to each other and the way we helped each other. Okay, I love you loads, and I will see you soon for another video. Okay, love you. Bye.